show that's 3 dimensions away from Terrifier 2 being called Art the Clown. I'm your host, 3D Jake, and today we're looking at Terrifier 2, released in 2022. Terrifier 2 is once again written and directed by Damien Leone and stars Laura Rivera, Elliot Fullman, Sarah Voigt, Kelly Hyman, Casey Arnott, and David Howard Thornton as Art the Clown. The movie is a sequel to Terrifier 1, but I would say a looser sequel. I mean, like, it picks up where Terrifier 1 kind of left off, but, like, it focuses more on new characters, new locations. It is a sequel, and all the routes of it picks up where the first one left off, but more or less it goes with a new story and new characters. And I feel like if you're going to make a sequel, the word sequel should be it's a continuation of the first story with returning characters. Like I would say Terrifier 3 is a sequel to Terrifier 2. But this one I feel like is not really a continuation. It is a new beginning with new characters, and so it is more or less I would say the next chapter, but not necessarily a sequel. But it's called Terrifier 2, so it is a sequel. The movie is about basically Art the Clown, who, after the events of the first movie, picks up, where he left off from killing the mortician, and then he basically goes and, this little demon pale called the Pale Girl goes with him, and they basically go and start, on to the next victim. And so the movie basically starts with these new people who were essentially like like this like woman and her little brother and her mom who is one of the worst actresses of this movie. Like she overacts crazily in this movie. And so essentially basically Art the Clown targets them and then chaos ensues. I'm a big fan of this movie. I think this movie is definitely an improvement. Like I'm not a big fan of Terrifier 1 because Terrifier 1 is a low budget movie and I have a hard time bashing this movie, but it's just not very good, when it comes to like Terrifier 3 is great. Terrifier 2 is really good. But Terrifier 1 is just not very good. And it's just like the story's poorly written. I would say besides the kills, there's nothing really of value in that movie. While Terrifier 2, I feel like is a vast improvement. It has a better story, it has better acted characters, it's better directed. And so I feel like that was the one thing, and then also the kills are even top notch. And I think that's one thing this movie benefits over the first one. And I kind of wish they'd just remake that film one day because I feel like there's, with a better script and a better, now that with, Damien Leone can direct really well. And I think honestly he could remake that movie and do it well. But I understand it'd probably be a disservice to the actors and actresses involved in the first movie. But I just feel like Terrifier 2, Terrifier 1 has that just bad taste in everyone's mouth versus Terrifier 2, which I think is a vast improvement. And I think honestly that's really where I think that hurts, kind of the brain because people have to watch this shitty movie in the first one to get to this movie. And I think really, it really sucks because, but I will say, I think this movie, though, does have a lot of improvements over the first one. And the first thing is, I think, honestly, the acting with the characters. I think this woman who plays Sienna, Laura Raven, who plays Sienna, is so good in the movie as a protagonist. I like she's a likable protagonist. You feel like okay, she has this mom that's an protective mother who is just really just like grilling her on her ass on everything. And I think honestly, I can understand it because we've all had mothers like that, and I think honestly, and her brother who just fascinated with serial killers. I would say that would be an overreaction, but really we have people that wanted to go as people who wanted to go as Ed Gein for Halloween. So really, is it that far of a stretch? And honestly, I could see like people wanting to fantasize and fantasize, idolize these characters because a serial killer because we make like there's a Ed Gein show coming out right now on Netflix. So I could see people really trying to say, oh yeah, these great characters are so great because and everything. And I think that's really really shitty of us as a society. But it is what it is. I will say I do like though that the kills in this movie, like there's a kill in the movie where like the one that they had vomit bags in. Like this was a movie that was they put in theaters. They didn't put it everywhere around nationwide. It was mostly like the select theaters, but like it wasn't enough theaters to where like I think the budget was $2 million and it made 10 million. And so like it was a really big success for them. So like I can't believe this movie made $10 million on a budget of two. That's a really big profit for them, especially because they're like, we really don't have no, like, like a studio, theaters get a small cut, since it's an even lesser cut because it's not in every theater. And they're like, yeah, we basically just pocketed like $8 million. And so like, yeah, and so, which I think that's really cool. And then they got distributors and stuff and everything, and I think that's really cool. I mean, like, I know a lot of people, when they look at the Terrifier movies, they're not like looking at like this is a amazing story with an amazing cast and everything else. They're looking at it as this is like an underdog that's like really succeeding in the independent world, because yeah, this is like 20 years ago. Probably nobody give a shit, but like in the world where like studios are like, hey, we're not making studio movies anymore. Like, we're only making franchise movies. We're not making independent. We're not making art house movies. We're only making like those, like a smaller group of movies now making. Like, there's like nowadays, like, people don't want to make a Sinners or a Matrix or stuff. They want to make like, that's like a smaller movie. They're like, okay, we're gonna make like a new Lord of the Rings and like a Minecraft movie, and another Superman movie and stuff like that. And there's nothing wrong with that. But the thing is, like, because movies like Mickey 17 will flop and everything, and they're like, okay, well, people don't want to watch original movies because obviously that's not what they want to watch. They want to watch movies like Minecraft and stuff like that, rather than, that's not really the case. I mean, it's just like, but that's the way they look at box office numbers. And the box office numbers, sometimes they're like, okay, well, if this movie flops, it's because nobody wanted to watch it. That's how they see it. And so I think now that we're in, horror, for instance, was a big thing because people are now watching horror. They're like, oh, okay, Scream 6 made more money than Shazam Fury of the Gods. Oh, that means people really want to watch more horror. They don't want to watch. They want to watch. And then John Wick made more money. Oh, they want to watch more movies like John Wick, and they want to watch horror films. Oh, okay, so we'll make more horror films and action movies. And I think that's really what the studio look at. They don't look at, oh, this movie was really good, but, I think we should have probably put it over at this release date. It just had a bad release date. And instead, they just look at, oh, box office. That's all they look at. They don't even give a shit about what people think. They just care about if they make money. And I think this really stuck it to them, because this movie came out, and this movie didn't have to, could have just like, it could have went and come and went. But instead, it almost went direct to video, but I'm glad it didn't, because it showed them that independent movies can make money. And I think to make $10 million, that was so rare. And then the third one, it makes $70 million, like on like a budget of $5 million, and it beat Joker 2 on Joker 2's second weekend. That's crazy. And I mean, I think that's really shows something that, independent movies still can exist and be profitable. And I think, honestly, what I like about this movie, though, is there's some brutal kills in this movie. Like, literally, this woman gets, like, her arm ripped off, or scalped. And on top of that, Art the Clown, who has, like, just a dark sense of humor. Like, he thinks this is the funniest shit in the world. Like, he literally goes and gets some salt and bleach and just rubs it in her wounds. And my friend and my relatives and stuff from Germany, they watched it, and they're like, this is messed up. Like, we don't have this in Germany. Like, this is so graphic and violent. And I was telling about how they had vomit bags in the theater because people were throwing up at this scene. And then on top of it, there's a scene where dude gets his dick cut off and he's stabbed in the dick, with a knife. Or like the scene where this guy, like, Art the Clown, like one of the scenes that like they thought was so stupid and so funny is when Art the Clown is just standing like this, like the camera pans and just paused with glasses on, where he's like, and stuff like that. Is what made him laugh, because it's just so dumb, but it's so funny. Because you're like, this is someone you have to take seriously, because if you don't take him seriously, he will kill you. Like, this is someone, like, you're like, okay, this guy is just like, it's a dumb, you think, oh, it's a dumb moment, but really there's meaning behind that, because it's like, this is someone who's going to kill you, and he's going to do it for fun because he finds it hilarious to murder people. And when he's not smiling, that means he's tired and bored of you and wants you dead quickly. When at least when he's killing you, he's doing it for fun. Like, there's a scene that I love that with the Clown Cafe, where he gives all these kids gifts and everything, and then all of a sudden he just guns them all down with a machine gun and everything, and then he just drops the machine gun when he's done. Like, that's done, and everything, and then he just gets a flamethrower and sets people on fire. That was just such a great scene. I thought that was great, and I also like how he pumpkin bombs pumpkins the mom's car and shaving cream, and then he writes "bitch" on the wall, and then all of a sudden just shoots them. That was hilarious, and then he shoves the mashed potatoes, and that's a great scene too. And I also really like whenever like the mom comes home, that one girl's scalped, and then he waves at her, and then like he serves her head to trick or treaters with candy. The one kid grabs one more candy, he slaps on the head, and he's like, one, stuff like that is really great and everything. And I don't really like the pale girl aspect. I understand that that's supposed to be the girl she resurrects Art every time, and They really don't touch upon the magic sword. I thought that was kind of dumb, but I understand why, because it's like, oh, he's supernatural, so she has supernatural. It's a psychic connection type thing. I understand. And I also like the sword is supposed to be like, okay, it's the good, art's evil, she's good, good versus evil. The little girl is kind of like the demon or his boss that resurrects him. And I understand that watching this, I feel like the third act kind of dragged. When they go in the haunted house, it just kept dragging because it's like, okay, they stopped them. Nope. It's like Return of the King, where it's like, oh, it's the ending. Nope, there's another 30 minutes left. And like, oh, this keeps happening. Oh, no, this is not the end. Oh, no, this keeps happening. Oh, no, Art's over here now. Oh, no, this is happening. It just kept dragging out. I'm like, we fucking ended already? Like, I'm ready to go. And this is like, finally, whenever Art stabs her and then she gets resurrected by the sword and cuts his head off, that's when I thought it was, okay, it's good, it's ending. No, there's another 10 minutes left. I'm like, what the fuck? Okay, come on. Like, it's like, do we really need another 10 minutes? I mean, like, it shouldn't just be like, okay, most movies, The Hills Have Eyes, the original, just ended with them killing the bad guys, and that was it. Okay, it didn't end with like another 10 minutes of them slowly walking away and then a post-credit scene teasing the villain's still alive. And I just thought that was like, we didn't need that shit, But other than that, I do think this is a strong movie, and it does have better cinematography, better action. And it is, I will say, if you're a big indie film fan, the Terrifier movies are a fun time for indie film fans to watch. And it shows that you can, with a budget, triumph it over a studio one day. And I think that's what this movie deserves. And that's really where most of the praise comes from. From a story perspective, it's okay, but like, it's not great. But I think this is a much better improvement over the first movie. And if I had to give this movie a grade, I'm going to give it a B-. Thank you so much.
Sharpton for president, y'all. I'm outie.
Jesse Jackson for VP.